Well, recording's in progress, as our American lady has just told us. Rebecca, you're here once again. I haven't yet managed to cause you to feel it's not a good idea to have these too occasional for me, conversations. I'm saying too
Yeah.
much already. Today, you wanted to talk about peer groups, and as you know, my immediate response to that was to find a bit of research on this issue, and I've found this, which I think you can see.
Yep.
That for me is a peer group. So, group of people on a peer.
Yep.
Um, is that what we're here to talk about?
Not quite, but it may have a relevance, bringing a group of people together, So are they a good group? Are they a good peer group or not?
You are right. Well done. I just thought it was a one-dimensional, let's start with something stupid, but they are a peer group. They are actually a peer group of people on a peer.
They are, yeah. So how well do they get on and are they supporting each other and the important things in a peer group? What is it that makes a peer group?
Wow, I didn't think we'd start with such
Just
focus.
throw it in at the deep end there.
They have a shared purpose. They have an affinity. Um, they're a they are a peer group. Whoa! It wasn't a total nonsense. So, more sensibly, where do you want to start us with this?
I think this is something that's come up fairly recently for me in terms of the importance of a peer group and how it influences our own behaviours and what we do and how we think about things and what we achieve actually as well. I think that's where this has come from, and recognising that the people that we surround ourselves with has a massive influence on our lives, regardless of whether we're aware of it or not aware of it. And how consciously do we choose our peer group? I think that's where I'm starting with this.
Okay, this is going to be a 4 hour conversation, despite wanting to keep it below 15 minutes. And we've got more visuals to come, slightly more sensible, but just as purposeful. Yeah, you've raised a lot there already. I particularly like the do we do it deliberately or not? Do we find ourselves surrounded by a bunch of people who kind of are our peer group? But
Mm.
did we do it intentionally? Did we do it deliberately, consciously, or did that just happen? And I think if we control that process and manage it to a degree, we can exclude certain people, we can introduce certain people. It doesn't have to be the people we've got around us now.
No, and I think we develop our peer group from when we're young, aren't we? We're thrown together in a class at school or college or whatever,
When past tense.
and they become our peer group. But that's when we're put together, and I think this is the difference, isn't it? Do we choose our peer group, or do we sort of just sort of
Mm,
get put in
mm,
a peer group? And I think as
mm.
adults we have that choice, but perhaps it's only something that I've been thinking about in the last few years since I've had my own business, and actually choosing. And I think this is where, if you go into networking events or groups and things like that, that's quite important to choose carefully and wisely with that.
I don't think that happens much. It's a generalization. Certainly, like you, I've become more aware of it. Certainly, 30 plus years ago when I started working for myself, and I thought, oh, this isn't helping me. This is wasting my time. We're drinking coffee, we're getting nowhere. And then, wow, this is really helpful. I've got to keep in touch with this person. So part of that is through the activity we do deliberately for a different reason, maybe to
Yeah.
seek collaborative business contacts or whatever. Other things just happen. I mean, I've got to, I must write down my peer group sometime. I've got to kind of feel there aren't very many, and I kind of feel it's constricted. And I kind of think some people who think they're in it aren't, by my thinking, and nor probably am I in theirs when I think I am. So that's shooting it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm just thinking now. So the peer group I'm thinking of to some extent is, so I've recently started my own coaching thing again. I'm being coached again. I'm on a coaching program. So I've been put
Like it.
together with a peer group. But actually, although I've been put together within that group, it's a very selective group because these people have chosen to be on this program.
Sure.
And the fact that they've chosen to be on this program already demonstrates a certain level of commitment to their own
Yeah.
personal development
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's the other interesting thing for me. Is I think sometimes we might choose a peer group based on different reasons as well. So for me, we and peer group doesn't have to be local either. This peer group spanned the world. I've
Yeah.
been matched up with a buddy in Australia. That it's not even that it's close, and it's not even that it's in real life, but it can be online as well. And I think this is the thing where we can start thinking about
Real
things.
life and online. I like that distinction,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I think you're right, and this is a deep and powerful issue. And I guess I'm also wondering, Rebecca, are we talking peer groups singular, or is it possible to have parallel peer groups plural?
Oh, I've definitely got a couple of different peer groups now I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So I have got one that's more in real life. And that's funny, isn't it? Yeah. So just because it's, you know what I mean? It's in
I
person,
know,
I should say, rather
I
than
know.
online. And that's a group of women, and it's called Wise Tribes, and it stands for Women Inspiring and Supporting Each Other, and I think the name in itself is really, I think that describes our group perfectly, and actually having that peer group has really helped me over the last few years with my business.
Should we put Warren up?
Yeah, let's put Warren up.
Let's put Warren up. This is Warren Buffett. Here we go. He's a man well worth paying attention to on various issues. Are you seeing that? Okay.
Yeah.
What we got here then?
I think that first sentence, surround yourself with people that push you to do better. What a great start that is. And it's with the encouragement, bringing out the absolute best in each other, because a lot of the time it can be very competitive, and people don't want to share. They don't want to encourage or support each other. It's all about me and how am I going to get ahead of the game and stuff, where actually, if you work together and everybody pushes each other, then everybody wins in that situation.
Sounds almost utopianly, wonderfully, cheesily perfect. But if you get the right people, that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and what makes that more, I always find this is an interesting thing, isn't it? We could sort of say, oh well, it's a bit far-fetched, and how realistic is that? And maybe it's too nice and too sweet. But actually, the alternative is equally, available to us. But which one would you rather live in? I'd rather be surrounded by people who are positive and uplifting than people who are complaining and moaning and negative all the time. Yeah, and we can have either. That's the thing.
You're leading me now. We'll bring Warren back in a minute. You're leading me to, if you're seeing it,
Yep.
this one from the 48 Laws of Power, one of my favorite books. Law 10 is exactly what you've just been saying. Forgive me, everybody, if you're out there, for reading it out to you. Infection. Avoid the unhappy. I get a lot of contacts from I get a lot of contact from a few people who use me as a free therapist to, I'm not going to mention their names, to receive very long phone calls in which they're totally taking from me. Very often for absolutely no commercial advantage. That's not how I operate a lot of the time, and they know that. But I'm just someone who gives people the space to say, you won't believe what happened to me today. And I think, here we go. It's going to take an hour and a half until I stop it.
Yeah. And
I
that's
want it
not,
in my peer group.
it's, I think it's interesting because I think sometimes it's okay to do that, but we have to be very careful that we don't
Yeah,
absorb that energy
yeah,
ourselves. Because this
absolutely.
is the difference. If you surround yourself with the right people, you feel energized,
Yes.
you feel uplifted and motivated. If you're with those people who are unhappy and, moaning all the time, then it really does drain you.
That I discover is the case. And I'm not a begrudging person. I give people time. There's a limit to how much time we've got to give. And some people just want to take that time, take that time, take that time. So coming back to Warren, is there anything else here you want to pick out?
I think it's, yeah, good times and positive energy. That's what you get when you surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
And that's a far happier place to be. And, some people say, yeah, but that's just sort of wishful thinking, but it's not
No.
wishful thinking.
Hmm.
It is very possible. I think that's the thing. It is very possible to have that.
No jealousy or hate. Hate is a strong emotion to introduce this, but let's forget hate for a minute. I don't like but no jealousy. It's not an envious group. It's a group where there's tolerance of each other and where people are prepared to give and take. It's never in equal measures, like you say.
Yeah.
Um, That's an unusual place. And how big can a peer group be? Let's get really practical here. We're talking
Mm.
50 people, 300 people, three people. What do you think?
For me, I suppose there's different levels. For it to be a genuine connection for me, I would need it to be smaller because otherwise I can't get to know that that group of people. So you can feel the energy. So sometimes when you go to
Yeah,
these events,
yeah,
you can get these really positive, uplifting events and everybody's rah, 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 which is lovely.
yeah.
But I think you miss the genuine connection with individuals then. If it's smaller and you can get to know people. So for me, a peer group is a group of people that I get to know over a period of time. It's not somebody who I meet once and that's it. So a peer group for me is around developing that relationship on a longer term basis.
Mm. And I agree with you. Sometimes I see on LinkedIn a picture of, hey, today we had a great peer group meeting. You see this huge table with about 30 people smiling away. I thought, that's a meeting. That's not a peer group activity. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, I like what you're saying. It is about flexibility. It doesn't have to be real world. It could be a mixture of both. It's just, it's hard to, it's hard sometimes to describe because it's slightly nebulous, isn't it? It's
mm,
slightly abstract almost, but it's not conceptual, it's real. It's that body of people that you can call upon or be part of, sometimes as a group meeting, sometimes in a peer group. It's about meeting individually within that peer group. The peer group doesn't have to be the only entity, does it?
no, no, and it's the relationships within that group, isn't it, as well? And I think just coming back to the thing you mentioned about the jealousy
Mm.
in a peer group, people celebrate each other's achievements and successes. You know, that's the key. It's not about being jealous and thinking, oh well, if they've been successful, it means I can't be, or that it's almost like that pie thing, isn't it? It's just, oh, if they've got a bigger portion of the pie, it means there's less for me. But actually, you can see it that it just means it's a bigger pie for everybody. Then.
And I think I've witnessed this with my son in his sporting activity, particularly in cricket. You know when you're in a peer group of people who play a sport together where the jealousy lies, the you did better than me, but I run you out next week. People who take pleasure in each other's successes, that's an unusual place to be, and that is energizing.
Mm.
But also, let's just we're always tight for time. We're in our last few minutes now, but I think it is possible to deliberately adapt the membership of your peer group to let certain people drift away,
Yep.
to introduce people, find people to say, do you like what I'm seeing from you? And either say, would you like to be in my peer group? Or by some means introduce them by activity and by interest in a sort of natural way. How do you get people into and out of a peer group?
Mm.
You are expelled.
Yeah. Yes, I think the people naturally drift away if there's no synergy there,
Some
actually.
do, but some like to leech off others. Hey, great, you're all here. Let me tell you about my last 5 weeks. It will take about 2 hours of your time. Oh, go away.
Yeah, and that's when you have to maybe have some boundaries in place, isn't it? It's not necessarily about criteria, eligibility criteria. I know there are in some peer groups that you have to meet certain criteria to join. I get that. But I think it is about having mutual respect for each other and maybe I got to say clear aims, but I don't think I'm thinking of my peer group. There's no we don't have like a set of rules or anything
Is it about
really.
emotional intelligence? Is it just
Mm,
somehow intuitively feeling the purpose of this group is not to prattle on about my terrible life for 5 hours? It's about very often giving more than I take and being mutually supportive and feel like it's okay. Is it that intuitive,
mm.
uncodable way to just be?
Yes, it is. And I think if you've got a strong peer group, then I think they will naturally
Mm,
use
mm,
possibly coaching or possibly mentoring
mm,
to
mm,
encourage the person to change their
mm,
habits or change their thinking. I don't think if you've got a confident peer group, they're
mm,
not going to be
mm.
afraid to challenge
Yeah,
you. If you
yeah.
keep coming and being negative or not doing
Mhm.
things, then they're going to come up and start challenging you on that. And I think that's how you maybe naturally get people to move in and out of peer groups.
Yeah, because some people would feel that's not an environment they feel comfortable in or can get the most from or give anything to.
Mm,
Um, There's a lot in this, isn't there? How often do we say it's something to return to? Because
Yeah.
it no doubt is. And part of the value of that is the reflection to afterwards that we didn't do this and we didn't mention that. We're not
Mm.
trying to be definitive ever in these conversations, just to raise issues.
Yeah, and I think so. I think for me, the key takeaway that I would like to encourage people to do is consciously consider who's in your peer group and
Yeah.
are they people that you enjoy spending time with that make you feel good and bring out the best in you.
Well, I couldn't add anything to that, so I'll simply say thank you very much as ever.
Thank you.